Okay, call tonight's Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Recommendation that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting of October 24th, 2022 be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Anish, second by Councillor Scott Morvan. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, seeing as we have no petitions and delegations this evening, this is an opportunity for the members of the public to come forward and speak to council on any topic of their choosing. You can come as a first come, first served basis and just come to the mic, use the mic and use your name and say your name and your address, and you can ask any questions of council. Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn and reconvene, or to motion to adjourn the meeting. Moved by Councillor Scott Morvan, seconded by Councillor Anish. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Call tonight's regular council meeting to order. Recommendation that the agenda for the regular council meeting of October 24th, 2022 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Randhawa, seconded by Councillor Moreau. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item 3A, recommendation of the minutes of the special council meeting of October 3rd, 2022 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Niche, second by Councillor Scott Morvan. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item 3B, recommendation of the minutes of the regular council meeting of October 3rd, 2022 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Randhawa, seconded by Councillor Moreau. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. First up, we have a report from our Director of Government Relations and Intergovernmental Relations regarding the major projects update. Oh, that's twice on there. Director of Operations is what I should say. There we are. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a monthly major project report. We've done this several times before, so quickly going through it, it has the chart which is in the agenda package. There's been no new development on the 3rd Avenue extension. As everyone is aware, the Eat Street new landfill cell and the recycling program are all at 100% complete. The RCMP detachment is about 25% complete. The demolition of the former Kingdom Hall is complete. The conceptual drawings are complete, and the earthworks and foundation program is about to start. The SCADA system upgrade is 15% complete. We've awarded the RFP associated with that for the new towers, and the design is underway for that. The sewer treatment program with the wetland innovative treatment solution, we are at 90% design drawings, and we are looking for budget to go forward for next year in the pilot program. The submarine line is 15% complete. RFP is awarded. Design is underway. Water treatment a little further behind. We are working on the RFP that's going to be going out for that, for design. Waterfront project is 15% complete. The bathymetric survey is complete, and the functional assessment will be coming forward to staff very soon. And obviously we're very pleased to say that the Woodworth Dam project and structure is complete, and we had council out what was that, last week or the week before, to take the picture and move forward with that. The reservoir, with all the rain, is bouncing back. There's a little bit of work to do to hook up the line, bleed all the air valves, and get the water going through the system. But ultimately, it will be Mother Nature that tells us when it comes back to the community, when the water is cleaned up enough for Northern Health to allow us to bring it forward. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Motion to receive the report. Moved by Councillor Scott Morvan, second by Councillor Niche. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have a report from our corporate administrator regarding council resolutions update for September 2022. Any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one quick note. You'll see that there was a notice of motion regarding the healthcare petition that is showing as pending. It is actually completed and has been sent off.
Okay. Okay, motion to receive the report. Moved by Councillor Scott Morvan, second by Councillor Niche. Any questions? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have a report from our Chief Financial Officer regarding the August 2022 financial variance report.
Thank you. As in previous reports, operating and utility revenues and expenses are currently on target and in line with expectations to the end of August. Capital and special projects are underway. Costs are being received. There are no significant variances to report at this time. That concludes my report.
Okay, recommendation to receive the report. Moved by Councillor Randhawa, seconded by Councillor Scott Morvan. Questions? All All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item D, DVP 2022-20 for 1153 Ambrose. Any final comments on this?
Nothing received.
Okay. Recommendation that council proceed with the approval of DVP 22-20 for 1153 Ambrose. Moved by Councilor Anish, second by Councilor Skelton Morvan. Discussion?
The one question is, there was supposed to be something placed on there so that it wouldn't be used as a rental. Is that all? That's been all part of the process on that? As far as making sure that it wasn't used as a dwelling, unauthorized dwelling.
Oh yeah, right.
So I just wanted to make sure that that was written into the agreement.
Go ahead.
Yes, when the permit has been approved, we can note that on the actual physical permit that the applicant will receive.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have a report from Planning Development Activity Report for September 2022. Is anyone wanting to speak to this, or is it just for information? Okay, recommendation that council receive and file this report as provided. Moved by Councilor Niche, second by Councilor Skelton Morvan. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have a report from planning regarding development variance permit number 2221 for 5396 6th Avenue West. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An application was received for a development variance permit for the property located at 539 6th Avenue West. So the application involves a request for variance of section 5.2.6b of the zoning bylaw to have a 1.24968 meter setback from the rear property line. The required setback from the rear property line in R2 zone is 3 meters. The application also involves a request for variance of section 5.2.6c of the zoning bylaw to have a 0.85344 meter setback from a side property line in relation to the southwestern side property line, and the required setback for a side property line in an R2 zone is 1.2 meters. The proposed variances are requested by the applicant to accommodate an existing second-story alteration. The second-story alteration involving a roof alteration to add headroom to an existing and long-standing second-story living space was completed without obtaining a development variance permit and a building permit as would be required, and details are provided in the report. There are no known negative impacts of the proposed variances on the surrounding neighborhood, and the public will have the opportunity to provide feedback during the public consultation period, and the recommendation is that council proceeds with the statutory notification process for development variance permit application 2221.
Moved by Councilor Niche, second by Councilor Scott Morvan. Questions? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have a report from planning again for 2222 for 1546 India Avenue.
Yes, so this application involves a request for variance of section 5.2.4 of the zoning bylaw to have a lot coverage of 52.47%. The maximum lot coverage in R2 zone is 50%. The application involves another request for a variance of section 5.2.6b of the zoning bylaw to have a 1.28016 setback from the rear property line, and the required setback there is 3 meters. The application also involves a request for a variance of section 5.2.6c of the zoning bylaw to have a 0.4572 meter setback from the side property line in relation to the southwestern property line, and the setback there required is 1.2 meters. And so these variances are requested by the applicant to accommodate a proposed attached garage. There are no known negative impacts of the proposed variances on the surrounding neighborhood, and the public will have the opportunity to provide input during the public consultation period. Since the proposed development spans lot lines and would not conform with the side yard setback requirement, the development variance permit includes a subject clause that the permittees successfully have the lots consolidated or the interior lot lines cancelled prior to the issuance of a building permit. The recommendation is that council proceeds with the statutory notification process for development variance permit application 2222.
Moved by Councilor Niche, second by Councilor Scott Morvan. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Next, report from planning, support for the 2022-23 BC Active Transportation Network Planning Grant. Anyone speaking to this?
We're happy to answer questions if council has any.
Anyone want to move the motion? Moved by Councillor Scott Marvin, seconded by Councillor Randhawa. Any discussion? Other than this will be a huge project for this community, especially if Highways is playing ball with us as well. My only question would be: do they have any position on Second Avenue officially?
We're still working with them. It's all positive. We're moving forward with expectations that the concept that we've worked out with them thus far will be approved conceptually in the near future.
Excellent. Okay, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Next one, a report from planning regarding the extension of the housing incentives. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the recommendation for this resolution is that council waive all fees for residential rezoning, development permits, including variance permits and building permit applications outside of the city core that result in new units for 1 year effective November 1st, 2022 to November 1st, 2023. And new units may include new builds as well as accessory dwelling units. For background, the Housing Action Workshop and the Interim Housing Strategy from 2021 recommended to waive development fees for residential housing outside the city core in order to incentivize residential development. This incentive applied to waiving fees for all rezoning, building and development variance and development permits. And this was approved on September 20th, 2021 and has been in place since October 1st, 2021 to October 1st, 2022. As housing supply continues to be a major issue facing the community, there are several options that council could consider in moving forward regarding this incentive. So option 1 is to extend the waiver exclusively for new builds and renovations that add additional units. Option 2 is to extend the waiver as it exists currently. So this would apply to all renovations or all building permits, development permits, including variances and rezoning outside of the city core for residential development. And the third option is to not extend the waiver. Staff recommend extending the waiver for new builds and renovations that add additional units only. So this is option 1. And this would not apply to permit renewals. This option will reduce opportunity costs while continuing to incentivize residential development and increase supply of housing. However, it may result in fewer renovations and retrofits that do not produce new units, and due to the age and condition of housing in Prince Rupert, Mayor and Council may wish to continue incentivizing renovations as well. There are no new additional resources required to renew this incentive, although with the continued waiving of fees, it will result in an opportunity cost.
The only question I had would be, let's say someone bought a house and like if this would be with option 1 by reducing it just to new units. If someone bought a house, say, and it was a full redo, but their intention was to add a additional housing unit to it while renovating it. Now, would you divide that permit into two so that they're only going to waive the permit fee for the new part of it, or would you waive the fee for the whole build? That's the only thing that kind of came as a question for me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like if you bought a gutted house, like if you gutted a whole house, but your intention was to add an additional unit to it, now would you waive the permit for the whole renovation, or would you waive the permit just for because it is one permit, would you waive the permit fee for the one?
The way this is written and the intent behind it is if there's a new unit, it would apply to the entire works, renovation included of the existing premise.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, I think that this is a good program, and actually, I almost think that we could do it longer than 1 year, because I think that building housing it takes a while to get into it, and 1 year isn't a long time, and here we are a year later already extending it. But I would be, I think taking out all the development or the the way we had it this last time with everything, it's probably a little bit much, and I think we could probably reduce it just to the new builds and go that route. I think it'd probably be the better option for us.
Are you moving the recommendation?
Yeah, I'll move that. Number 1.
Seconder. Moved by Councilor Randhawa. Discussion. I think it's a no-brainer. All right. All's in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. Thank you. Next up, bylaws. 5A, Digby Island Ferry and Prince Rupert Airport Ground Transportation System Tariffs, Fees, and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 3503. Recommendation that council give fourth and final reading to the City of Prince Rupert Digby Island Ferry and Prince Rupert Airport Ground Transportation System Tariffs, Fees, and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 3503, 2022. Moved by Councilor Randhawa, seconded by Councilor Scott Morvan. Any further discussion on this item? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have a report from planning regarding the Prince Rupert zoning amendment bylaw number 3504, 2022 for parking specified areas.
Okay, so regarding this proposed bylaw amendment number 3504, on July 25th, 2022, councilors approved an interim parking management strategy that characterized and proposed strategies to address parking issues in Prince Rupert's downtown. One of these recommendations was to introduce a parking specified area in Prince Rupert's downtown where new commercial and mixed use developments were exempted from minimum parking requirements as they exist currently. This proposed bylaw enacts these changes. So currently the minimum parking requirements for off-street parking are outlined within our zoning bylaw, and this proposed bylaw would amend these requirements as follows within the parking specified area. It would establish an area where no minimum off-street parking requirements are in effect, with the exception of exclusive residential uses. It would maintain any existing off-street parking in this area, so this would not result in a loss of any parking. It would maintain existing parking regulations outside of the specified area, and it would ensure that all other sections in Section 9, which is the parking section of the zoning bylaw, regarding standards and ratios for bicycle, accessible or disabled parking, loading areas, and electrified parking requirements are applicable both in and outside of the parking specified area. Staff are recommending this amendment because removing parking minimums in the parking specified area can support sustainable and smart growth principles and city core revitalization goals, as parking spots are difficult to accommodate within Rupert's small lots, and they can pose design and financial barriers for development. Street parking minimums, or off-street parking minimums downtown, are out of step with existing space and need for parking. There are currently more stalls required than actually needed, as well as best practices regarding parking management. Parking minimums introduce sprawl, they promote automobile dependency rather than walkability, and they act as a barrier to development due to the cost of parking spots, and as we've seen in Rupert, already on top of high development costs. Removing minimums therefore allows developers to meet the market demand for parking. It instigate parking management practices, as well as provide flexible and adaptive land use without taking up additional green space or developable land. So based on these factors, it is more efficient to implement additional public parking strategies, if necessary, based on performance indicators that identify parking congestion or spillover, rather than planning for the worst case scenario, which is what parking minimums do. There are no impacts to budget as foreseen with the proposed bylaw. And to summarize the recommendation of staff, council should give first and second reading to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment number 3504 to waive parking requirements for new buildings, with the exception of residential only buildings in this parking specified area, and should proceed to public hearing.
Anyone want to move the recommendation? Moved by Councilor Moreau, second by Councilor Randhawa. Discussion? Councilor Moreau? I could just feel it. Been here for 8 years.
Yeah. We know each other too well now. All I would say, the reason I support the motion is actually going all the way back to 2018, and one of the recommendations of the Small Business Advisory Committee was solving what is a very thorny issue. It's been longstanding. We've heard it loud and clear. Every Business Walk survey, parking is in the top 3 responses of challenges that need to be addressed from local businesses. So that's why I'm supportive of investigating this. And I think Supportive of public hearing because recognizing it is a contentious issue. There is a lot of there's a lot of prospective opinions that we need to take into consideration here. Obviously, being the next council at public hearing, but that's why I'm supportive of public hearing and supporting of the motion as it's worded.
Other comments? Yeah, I think this is exactly what needs to happen. This is going to free up a lot of issues. And from 8 years of being here, this has been a big barrier to new development. And I think this was going to remove that barrier. So I'm definitely in support of the motion. Any other comments?
We're going to pave paradise and put up a parking lot. The yellow cap.
Okay, all's in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, any reports, questions, or inquiries from members of council? Councilor Niche.
I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure working with you two for the last 8 years, and good luck raising your families. And it's been fun and challenging both at the same time, and it's been awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Wade. Councilor Reinhauer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, same. Yeah, this is your last meeting both, and thank you for your service to our community. And it was my pleasure to work 8 years with you and learn a lot from both of you. And you will be missed, but wish you all the best for your new future. Thank you.
Other comments? Councilor Scott Morvan.
I don't have a Sarah McLachlan song prepped on hand. I think it'd be some tear-jerking music video. But for me, I want to thank you both for your service and just for it's been a privilege and an honor of mine to work alongside you. And for me, and finding my way into politics at the age of 25 as a young Indigenous person and residing in this territory and having this representation is extremely important. And having someone like Lee Brain and Blair Moreau at my side and strong allies that continue to advocate to build those bridges. And again, it's been a huge honor of mine to work alongside you, and I thank you both for your service and for putting the time in. So for me, I'm going to continue on and continue to collect the gray hairs and the baldness as it comes, and in your absence. So, but thank you both for what you've done for the community and the region. And I think a lot of folks. This is definitely a thankless job, and I know that many folks kind of miss the wins, and they'll follow up with a complaint and different things like that. And I think for me, seeing you two especially on this, and then the previous council, like what we've been able to accomplish is something that's been not achieved before by any previous councils. So for me, seeing that and being inspired by two young folks and having my own opportunity to step into the arena and continue the momentum. So thank you both.
Thanks, you, Councilor. You go ahead. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thanks very much, everyone. And likewise to you guys. Congratulations on your re-election. It's super exciting. There's no way I can possibly summarize 8 years and touch on everything, but I think I want to give like really broad brushstrokes of just like what Councillor Scott Morvan had just said about sometimes it's easy to forget some of the wins and the monotony of what this job can entail sometimes. But if I can rewind our memories back to 2014, people place their trust in a majority new council I think you were 29. I was 24 years old. Is as green of a council, I think, as people could have possibly elected. And I'm never going to forget sitting in these chambers in the first bench for the last meeting, equivalent of now, the last meeting of the last council, and the former mayor looked us right in the eye and said something to the effect of, we have a new group in here that's about to learn the hellhole of Watson Island, and it just never ends. And I remember thinking to myself, like, what have we gotten ourselves into? A little bit naive, I think, but optimistic and ambitious to get something done. But you know what? Like a couple of weeks into the job, everything he had been saying about it being a hellhole was pretty darn accurate. It was, $90,000 a month burn rate, multiple legal suits, multiple failed restarts, and deals falling through. So looking back on that time, it is kind of funny to think that we willingly signed up to do this. to do this job, and I think it's built. It's obviously that one particular file. Thinking about what we've got firsthand experience in between, court system, arbitration, provincial relations with BC Liberals and BC NDP, expropriation, contaminated sites legislation, decommissioning, demolition, and then finally commercial negotiations to get Pembina out there. What I said before, and I think that this, if we're going to be remembered for anything, I can't really prognosticate what the legacy of this council is going to be, but to me, that's one of the proudest, if not the proudest thing I've been happy to be the smallest part of, where we've transformed that island from the city's biggest liability that could very likely have bankrupted us if things continued on the status quo, to now one of our greatest assets, generating millions in tax and lease revenues, and is actually now up for a national brownfield revitalization award. So if that's how the next chapter of Watson Island ends, then if that's the only thing that we had accomplished as a group, then I would be proud to hang my hat on that. So you throw in the LNG speculative boom immediately after that, I think we got more experience than any other small town council in Canada for what we had to face those first few years. So to share the room with you guys has been a privilege through all that. Equally as rewarding, though, in my opinion, again, is playing one very, very small part in not just one, but in my opinion, 3 different once-in-a-generation infrastructure projects. The water dam, what will hopefully be our last landfill cell, and then solving the thorny issue of the RCMP station. Each one of those projects is only going to need to be dealt with once every 50 to 100 years. And so to be able to do all 3 of them within the last 2 terms is incredible in my mind. And it's just, all it speaks to is timing is everything. So it's been a privilege to work with you guys in senior management through all this, because without you guys, none of this would actually have happened. So I want to borrow the mayor's analogy, because he's used this a few times, of how I conceptualize the last little bit of time here is, we've spent a lot of time trying to fix a broken foundation of a beaten up house. And it was expensive and it was time consuming. It was not very glorious. It was a lot of digging in the dirt. But I think we fixed some of the most urgent financial and infrastructure problems that the city was facing. I hope I can say that the foundation, I feel like, is much more firm than when we took office in 2014. So the hardest part for me leaving now, if I could wrap up really briefly, is that the stage has been set for some very transformative projects and initiatives that will not start paying dividends probably for months or even years to come. And that's anything from the acquisition of Lot 9. I think that's something that's quite understated about what we were able to accomplish and the transformative potential that has for expanding Cow Bay, expanding housing and commercial opportunities. The new official community plan, downtown tax revitalization bylaw, what that can do in reshaping our downtown. The innovative wastewater treatment project could save us tens of millions if that pilot project works out. New airport landing, CN station revitalization has the potential to create some really amazing waterfront amenities for the community. City West Connected Coast project is going to transform that municipally owned corporation into a major player in British Columbia. And then on the housing file, just making sure things get to the finish line. So the new McKay Street redevelopment, Raffles, Lac Alam's 11th Avenue East project, Silverside subdivision. There's so many that the city has some role to play in, and to see all those get to the finish line is going to be really exciting. So for all those reasons and many, many more, it's kind of bittersweet to be leaving now, but as Councillor Niche said, family's got to come first, and so I don't have any regrets in leaving, but it is obviously still a sad day after 8 years to be taken off, but I'm wishing you guys all the best, and I'll be a cheerleader from the sidelines as best I can, and yeah, it's been a pleasure and a privilege. So thanks, everyone.
We bought pom-poms already.
Well, he just made it easy for me. This is the difference between the two of us. He shows up prepared, and I just talk for a living. That's what I do. Boy, yeah, it's crazy actually when you think about it all. After 8 years of how much this community's gone through, it's when Councilor Moreau talks about the first days, yeah, came into 6 LNG facilities being proposed, plus Watson Island, plus essentially the town was going bankrupt fast, and we had no choice but to dig the town out of the hole, and that's, I would say, what we've done. What could we do more? Yeah, if I stayed another 10 to 20 years, we could probably accomplish the rest of it. But at the end of the day, there'll be mayors for time immemorial, and there has been mayors before, and there's been councils, and you do what you can while you're there, and you do the job well. And I think that's something I feel very proud of. I think we've managed to set a new foundation, dig the town out of a hole, lay out new ground for a new trajectory now. With the redesign process in Rupert 2030, 4,000 people in this community came together to help design that process. It was pretty much unanimous in terms of the community wanting a new change. I think one thing when you're in a community that's hit rock bottom, there's only one way up, and that's up, right? And so people wanted change, and I think we're delivering that, and this next council is going to continue that process. You guys helped build the plan, and I know you know what needs to be done, and I have nothing but confidence that you're going to continue with the vision. To our staff, and Corinne and Richard and Paul and Rob and Rosa and Veronica and Miff Wayne, I can never say your name properly, I apologize, and our planning department, and all our public works staff, our recreation, our fire hall, all our municipal staff at the RCMP, every department here works so hard, and unfortunately I think sometimes the town doesn't realize that these people are taxpayers too, and also have equal say around what's happening around here in this community. So, at the end of the day, we've always, I think, stood by the staff and have made sure you guys are supported, and because you guys work hard for this community. I mean, I've seen Miss Bauman here till midnight before budget times on a Saturday. Only reason why I know, because she's sending me emails at 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday asking questions, and I'm like, what are you still doing up? Because I'm sitting at home and she's here working. That's the kind of commitment the staff has put into this organization, and we are short staffed just like every organization, and everyone's doing the best they can, and it's a tough business to be in. It's public service, but they do it anyways because it needs to get done, and this community is moving forward. All the projects that Councillor Moe has pressed upon, but our biggest top priority has always been water and clean water, and that project is fully funded with the grants. We're moving forward with the last phase of that. And then the next stage after that, it's going to be the water distribution system within the actual town site, which is also another 100-year-old system. As everyone knows, McBride was dug up. That section of road itself was close to $1 million. And every single road in town needs to be ripped up. The infrastructure challenges that this community is facing is beyond what I think people fully understand. And we will need federal and provincial help to get it taken care of, because if we don't, we could be facing a crisis long term, and those pipes need to be replaced. But as we replace infrastructure, we also need to, Councilor Moreau referred to the analogy of building a house. Well, yes, we're building a foundation, but we also have to build the walls of that house and paint the walls at the same time and put some couches in there and some plants, because you can't just focus on infrastructure. And largely the projects that we have been doing, which is Watson Island, the water supply, these are all out of the community's view. They're things that aren't being seen. These large, massive undertakings. We had the media up at the dam last week, and I think it was probably shocking to see just the challenging terrain. And I think there's much more appreciation for everyone now to realize what these undertakings are. The support from the community has been, I think, massive. I think people are following along the program. In the time that I've been here, we've done 3 major community presentations: the Hayes 2.0 Blueprint, the Rupert 2030 Unveiling, and then the State of the City. I don't remember any other community that does anything like that, and I think that's the way to keep people informed and keep people engaged. And so now here we are at the end of our term, which is really just the beginning for this community's next stages. The next steps really are completion of the Gateway project, which is the main intersection at the downtown. That project coming together, which would create new housing, commercial development in the main downtown, is what really needs to happen to incubate the downtown development. Then you have midtown development, potentially a bunch of new housing, new development down where the Eat Street area is, where the Empress is and the Belmont was. That area is going to be scheduled for redevelopment. Lots of energy going in there. As Councilor Moreau said, we have the Marina District, Lot 9. Lots of potential for housing down in that area, waterfront development there. The main waterfront, Rupert's Landing, there's a CN station. There's $30 million going into that. That's being incubated, connecting all the way down to the Rushbrook Trail. You have Can Trails doing the Cloudberry Trail. They're getting a bunch of grants for that. And then, of course, most likely about 12 to 15 housing projects are going to be coming together here over the next 2 to 3 years, because the community needs 3,000 to 5,000 new housing units to come online by 2027. So the reality is we need 300 something units per year building. We need a mass mobilized effort, and this is going to require the Port Authority and all the port industries and the federal government, the provincial government, First Nations communities, the city, and everybody coming together full steam ahead and a very laser-like focus to get it done. Now, the good thing about the Rupert 2030 plan is it lays out a timeline of infrastructure, it lays out a plan on investment, and it lays out a process to getting there, because it's not all going to happen at once. And as long as the spirit of that is adhered to, I think this community is going to get the results it needs. So for me, signing off today, it's a little bit bittersweet as well, but you can't do something forever. And I am 37 now, and I should enjoy the rest of my 30s while I still got them, so that's what I'm going to do. And I just want to thank council for all your support. The truth is, I couldn't have been a good mayor without your guys' support. You have been 100% behind me, and have trusted me to do what needs to be done. And in many ways, I really feel like we built a bit of a family here on council. I have met thousands of people now in this business in America, the governors, premiers, prime minister, and I think we are a very high functioning group. I've met lots of other mayors and councils who just basically argue with each other, can't get anything done. They're always pulling at each other, and at the end of the day, when a council fails, a community fails, and we have not been like that. I actually don't think we have ever had a split vote in my entire 8-year time here. And I think it's because we were focused and we have a direction. And when you're motivated like that, you can move forward. And so without your guys' support, I wouldn't have been able to do what I needed to do. And going to the UBCM with staff and out to Ottawa and all the things, with so many traveling arrangements we've done, it's been quite an interesting experience being in politics. So very much appreciate all that. And once again, just my final thing is just how much I appreciate the staff. You guys are absolutely amazing crew of people. You literally are holding this place together. I don't care what anybody says. You guys absolutely deserve every piece of wage you get. In fact, more, you deserve it. Like, you guys are massively holding this whole place together, and nobody can fully see that. And I can see exactly what you're doing for this community, and I will defend you to the ends of the earth to make sure that people understand just how much work you guys do to make sure that this community succeeds. On a small team with a very limited budget, with $600 to $900 million worth of problems on your shoulder, good on you for sticking it out in these careers, because you could be off doing other things that are as less challenging for more pay. And I commend you for sticking around and being champions for Prince Rupert. And I hope that this next council continues to support you. In fact, I know they will. And I think there's going to be a good, smooth transition here. And it's been a very wonderful time. So thank you so much for making the experience a little bit more bearable when you're in public service by operating like a team. And council, thank you so much. And yeah, I guess I'll be signing off now. So thanks again for everything. Any other comments before I start crying? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilor Renhouse, second by Councilor Moreau. All's in favor? Meeting's adjourned.